Welcome to Northwest Now, and we are talking with the Superintendent of Bethany Public Schools, Drew Eichelberger. So I understand you all have a bond election coming up this Tuesday.
So it's a $6.5 million bond initiative, and it will be voted on August 25th. And three things happen with that. The first one is probably the most important one. It is 6 classrooms that will also be safe rooms. So with that, we'll be able to have every student and staff member in the entire district in a safe room in the event of a tornado. And we're also committing to our community that if we have a tornado or something severe weather, that we are paying someone to come up and open up the storm shelter, so anybody that lives in the Bethany School District area has a very nice safe room for them to come anytime. So that should be a good thing. The second thing is the connecting corridor. Let's see if that's right. So that's the connecting corridor, and that connects the high school to the middle school. And so there in the previous bond right here, inside that yellow circle, there is a red, those are some classrooms. Those are 2 classrooms that we used built in a previous bond. And we are enclosing in front of that right now, you have, there's an awning covering that. And so kids have to go out into the rain, or not the rain, but out into the weather to get to those 2 classrooms. Well, we're going to connect all that, and that's all going to be indoors. And then all those kids at the high school, whenever they come to this this new storm shelter that's towards the top of the screen there, they will be able to be inside. They won't have to go out into the inclement weather before they go into the place. You are now looking at a picture of the interior version of that mock-up of the connecting corridor. So those light brown wood-looking doors are the doors going into the high school. Then there'll be some lockers out there. And then on the side where we're outside of the picture, that's where the 2 classrooms are. That we currently have 2 classrooms. And then finally, we are, that entire front of the middle school is currently just under an awning, and it's a sidewalk. And so we're going to enclose that and make that a hallway that goes, so it'll go all the way from the high school all the way to where you would go into the lunchroom at the middle school elementary. So any foot traffic that comes from the high school will go through there instead of going through the middle school. And then many of our classes, whenever they leave to go to lunch, they will go through, all of the classes in the middle school will go out into this hall to the lunchroom, which will be a lot less noise. So it's going to help with the noise load in the middle school. The teachers are really excited about that.
So that's really going to help with the student traffic flow around the space, and as well keeping things inside, which will help with the heating and cooling and all kinds of things like that too, right?
That's right. So not only will it be, it's great for traffic flow, and that's really what the main part of it, but it will also be more secure. So there's another wall between the outside world and our kids. And so that's going to be a nice thing for our middle school families, middle school kids also.
So what would be, I think you mentioned the cost of the whole project, but what is that going to mean for taxpayers and for how long and such?
It's a 13-year bond. So just to give you probably more school finance than you care to have, bonds are built on the district's valuation, so with a V. So it is literally just what the Oklahoma County says, or whatever county you're in, but for here it's Oklahoma County, what they say, all the buildings, everything that is in that your district is worth. So we're worth about, our bonding, our valuation is about 17 million. If you compare that, you know, Putnam City's a lot larger district, both with square miles and with kids. Putnam City's bonding valuation is over $1 billion with a B. So there's quite a bit of difference. So if you're a Putnam City, you can bond a lot of money, say $150 million for 4 or 5 years. But if you're in Bethany and you have a 17 million valuation, then you have to stretch that out over longer years and you have to wait more time. So we're stretched out over 13 years. We've got some bonds in the works right now, but they'll be dropping off in about 3 years and 5 years. But then so that will drop the rate down. But right now it's going to increase. If a homeowner had a house worth $100,000, it would increase their monthly amount that they pay for their property tax, $6.65.
Okay.
Or if you want to look at that as a yearly thing, which we usually pay that in a yearly, it's going to be a $79.80 increase for an entire year. And so, you know, what I've been telling people as I talk to them is, if you think about that as a rental or your payment on a storm shelter, that's a pretty good deal. And this is not some little storm shelter underneath your backyard. This is a very nice, incredibly well-built storm shelter with heat and air.
Sure. Well, one of the things that we know in looking at communities and economies and such is that investing in keeping schools strong and really functioning well is one of the best investments a community can make in terms of keeping their property values high and continuing to increase. Tell us about some of the achievements of Bethany schools over the last several years.
So, you know, it was just let me find the date. We were in 2014, we were, the high school was recognized as a National Blue Ribbon School. And then in 2017, the elementary was recognized as a National Blue Ribbon School. And that's not an easy thing. You have to meet a lot of very difficult criteria. And so we're very proud of those two schools making that. We also, there is a website called niche.com, NICHE.com. And in my first year, we were rated 6th best district in the state of Oklahoma, which we were very proud of. Last year, we were rated 3rd best district, and this year we're again rated the 3rd best district in the state of Oklahoma. So, you know, there are over 500 school districts in the state of Oklahoma, and for us to get that rating, it says a lot about our teachers and our staff and our school board and our community, because we don't get to the level that we are if we don't have the community support that we enjoy here in Bethany.
I know this has been a really extremely challenging year, and tell us a little bit about how you all are moving into this next year. What's going to be going on with academics, with extracurriculars, with sports, and how you're planning on operating.
Okay, so we are going to do an A-B schedule at the middle school and high school, and what that means is that half the kids will come Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday will be a day where all kids will be home and have like a distance learning day. They'll get assignments via, they will get like a lesson and assignments from their teacher on Wednesday. So that'll be virtual. And then Thursday and Friday, the other half of the kids will come. So then we're going to try anyway, have all of our extracurricular activities. So football, volleyball, cross country, show choir, regular choir, orchestra, all of those things we're trying to have. So our teachers, our kids come to school for a lot of reasons, but kids overwhelmingly come to school because of the extracurriculars and the social aspect. So we want to do everything we can to try to have those things. Some of these kids are seniors, about 120 of them are seniors, and they don't get a do-over on that. They get one senior year. So we want them to have the very best, most normal senior year as possible. So we've put into place these, all of the different things, and I'll tell you about some of the things we're doing in the school. But the thing that is the biggest selling point for an AB schedule, for me anyway, and our board, is this. If we have 25, 30 kids in a classroom now, if we brought all of our kids in at once, and our classes are full, 25, 30 kids is not unusual to middle school and high school. So if one of those kids comes down with COVID, then we have to quarantine everybody within 6 feet of them. Well, if they're sitting in the middle of the class or even a row in on either side, that's going to be 6 to 8 kids that we have to quarantine. That's per class. So let's call it 6 times 7 classes is 42. That means with one kid being sick, we could have as little as 42 and as many as 50 or 60 kids that have to be quarantined. With the AB schedule, we're able to spread those kids out to more than 6 feet apart. So that allows us, if one of those kids comes down with COVID, then we can just send that kid home to get, just like we would with the flu or something else. We don't have to quarantine, and the result is school can continue for the other kids. What we're doing is trying to have a system in place where we can have school all the way until we get a vaccine. When we get a vaccine and we get herd immunity with that, then hopefully we'll be back to normal. The other thing that we're doing is everybody's wearing a mask. The staff's wearing a mask, the students are wearing a mask, and
I'm assuming they're all purple.
We bought masks for every one of our staff and all of our students, actually, and then we had some donated. So we've got some nice looking masks that are spreading around. Yeah. The kids in the elementary will be going 5 days a week, not 3 days or 2 days. So they were able, that's a different situation. We're able to kind of keep them isolated from each other. So they're in their own classroom, and they're able to be away from the other kids almost all day long. So if we end up having to do something in that classroom, then we're hopeful that we'll just have a few that we have to quarantine as well. We are going to use hand sanitizer every time we enter and exit the room. We bought that 80% rubbing alcohol hand sanitizer that's the good stuff to use when kids enter and exit the room, when teachers enter and exit the room. And we have some other PPE. Our nurses have the N95 mask if they get somebody that they think maybe has COVID. So we've taken what we believe are all the necessary precautions to make sure that we have a year that we can sustain. We would love nothing better than to have all of our kids here 5 days in a row. We just feel like, especially based on people that have gone back to school, they're finding kids with COVID, and that requires you to quarantine, and we that will cut down on the number of kids coming and able to play in extracurricular activities considerably.
Are y'all doing stuff like taking temperatures, and what kind of safety precautions do the staff have any you've mentioned besides, the masks and the distance and the sanitizer.
So right now we're taking temperature. The plan is to take the temperature of every student when they come in, and we have infrared temperature checker, thermometers for as kids come in the door. We also have some that are on the wall that kids can self-check, and they're set to alarm if they're over 100.4. But there is some now, as information changes, knowledge changes. Now the CDC has not come out and said this, but Dr. Fauci has said that he's not sure that there's a need to take a temperature, that it's not a leading indicator. So we have 4 doctors and 2 PAs that are have kids that go to school here in Bethany. And I asked one of them to ask the doctor group last night if we need to, is there still some good to come from taking temperature or not? And he was going to check on that. They're kind of, the bottom line, Jill, for me is this: if you've got a temperature over 100.4, whether it's COVID or not, there's something going on, and you need to go get checked out.
Yeah.
So that's a long story to say, yes, we're taking temperature, and we plan to continue that until that doctor group tells us differently.
So will like start times and lunch times, are you doing more like kind of scheduling them out, or are they still the same?
They're the same, because now we have half the kids in the middle school and high school, so we can separate them in the lunchrooms. Our sophomores, juniors, and seniors at the high school have off-campus lunch, so most of them leave for the lunch, not all of them, and so the freshmen are still here. And then in the middle school, we're able to separate those kids out in the cafeteria so that they'll have some social distancing while they're eating.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for talking about that. Educationally, what new kind of exciting things do you guys have coming up this year?
Well, we have, we're asking our teachers to do a lot this year, because we don't have enough students where we can have a teacher who's a virtual teacher and a teacher who's a regular teacher. So our teachers are doing both. They're being virtual teachers at the same time that they're being a regular teacher. So that's new and different for them, and that's what they've been doing the last 6 or 7 professional days, working on how to make that happen, and they are working hard and getting that done. We know that there is going to be some trauma that has been experienced from kids over the last 5 months, and so we've had some trauma training to prepare ourselves to watch out for the signs of kids who are currently in trauma or have gone through trauma. And so we're doing that. We are also watching very closely for kids that are just depressed or have signs, suicidal signs, or any kind of mental issue. Yeah, we want to make sure that we take care of these kids. The word out there is that the child abuse numbers have dropped significantly since this whole process has started, since they've not been in school. And most people believe that's because schools weren't there to be that person. So
they haven't been reported. It's
right.
Not that it's stopped, that it's not getting reported.
That's exactly right. It's not stopped. It's just not being reported. But we will have every one of our kids in school, our middle school and high school, twice a week, and our elementary 5 days a week. And we have very observant and trained teachers that are going to be there for that. We have a new, at the high school, we have a new biology teacher, and she comes to us from out of state, and I think she's going to be great. Her husband works over at Southern Nazarene University. And other than that, we just plan to continue to provide a very high quality education. And, we want our kids back in our classrooms. So it'll be easier for our teachers when our kids are back, but more importantly, it will be a better, higher quality education when our kids are back in our classrooms. That's where we can really guarantee a high quality education.
For the distance learning aspect, are you guys checking out tablets or any kind of thing? And are there options for Wi-Fi for those that don't have it, or what's going on there?
Those are great questions. And the answer is yes and yes. So we are providing Chromebooks for any student who doesn't have a computer at home or something they'd rather use. And then we also, we sent out a survey for anybody that has poor Wi-Fi or no Wi-Fi. We bought hotspots, and we will activate those hotspots for them, and they'll have Wi-Fi for anybody that needs it.
That's awesome. Anything else you'd like us to know?
We are looking forward to having our kids back in school. I want you to know that. I want you to know that our teachers are, they have some nerves because they're being asked to do a lot and being asked to do some things they haven't done. And they also are, they worry about keeping themselves and their families safe. And they worry about their kids. But we will provide the very best education for Bethany students. There's no doubt. We've got great teachers, great administrators. Our principals are just outstanding. So the other thing I would just remind everybody to, if you live in our district, in our little 1 square mile, to go vote on August 25th for the bond election.
Okay, and is it one vote, or are the 3 issues separate?
It's just one vote. That's a good question. Usually if there's any transportation or something, that'll be a separate bond, but this is all construction. It's just one vote.
One question. Okay. Well, I'm happy to tell you that the Chamber Board has endorsed that and is encouraging everybody to get out and vote yes on Tuesday for Bethany Public Schools. And we just want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us today, and wish you all the best in getting these plans underway and having a really successful year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you, and thank the board for supporting us. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Goodbye.